Alrighty, today we are going to be talking about Marvel Champions, specifically the protection aspect. So I'm going to run through some of the common cards from the first core set and several of the expansions. I wanted to walk everybody through something fun, and it's a protection Iron Man deck. I know that doesn't sound probably like the best combination, but I want to show you a kind of a cool synergy that you can create, especially end game, that really increases Iron Man's damage output significantly. And there's a combination of cards that you can put together in conjunction with Repulsor Blast to get this combo to work. So the first thing I want you to look at is how many protection cards on the screen have the energy resource icon, and there are a significant number of them. So if you look, the entire top row and then Luke Cage and Nova are also energy icons. This means that when you're cycling and you're playing your Repulsor Blast and you have to draw cards from your deck, you're going to be very, very likely to draw an energy card and thus amplify the Repulsor Blast significantly. Here's how you get this combo to work. Late game, Iron Man has the majority of his suit actually out on the table, and what that does is it reduces the amount of cards in the draw deck significantly. So if you have a bunch of cards in your draw deck with the energy icon and you start drawing the 5 cards to play your Repulsor Blast, you're going to be very likely to be drawing those additional energy icons and boosting the damage of Repulsor Blast. So I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of how that can trigger. The Repulsor Blast card does 1 damage, but it does an additional 2 points of damage for every energy resource that is revealed during an attack. So here's what could potentially happen when you do the Repulsor Blast. So if you look at just this first draw of cards, there are numerous energy icons that are actually discarded this way. So in this case, 4 energy icons were discarded, which would amplify the damage from 1 to 9 points. I'm going to go ahead and do it again. 3, 4, and 5. So once again, this is a little bit later game. You could get potentially another 4 icons from that draw. And we'll do it one more time. In this case, it's drawn 3 icons, which would amplify the damage by 6. So as you can see, late game, using Repulsor Blast in conjunction with energy resource protection cards can actually amplify Iron Man's damage output significantly. And you can also use those cards to protect yourself as well. It's kind of a bizarre but fun combo if you want to play something a little bit different. This is the Iron Man protection deck. Throw in the entire Iron Man set. Next, throw in basic cards, Energy, Genius, and Strength. These are your 3 basic resource cards. Throw in 2 copies of the Power of Protection. For other basic cards, Nick Fury, Avengers Mansion, Helicarrier, 1 copy of Downtime and 1 copy of Endurance. Downtime is going to give you better recovery since Tony Stark has a pretty low recovery score. The Endurance is going to give Iron Man even more hit points, so you can get into a ridiculous amount of hit points once his suit is actually constructed. Now, if you look at the next series of protection cards up at the top of the screen, all of them have the energy resource icon, so you're going to be inputting 9 of these cards directly into your deck. This is going to help protect you and to amplify the Repulsor Blast card late game. 3 copies of Preemptive Strike, 3 copies of Energy Barrier, and 3 copies of Med Team. Those are the 9 energy cards. We're also going to throw in 2 copies of Enhanced Awareness. This allows Tony Stark to activate his boots on a fairly routine basis. We're going to throw in 1 copy of Enhanced Reflexes. We can use Enhanced Reflexes with Nova to trigger Nova, so Nova can get those additional 2 damage when the enemy initiates an attack. We're going to throw in a copy of Luke Cage, a fantastic tank-style character, also with an energy icon, and we're going to throw in Black Widow as well. So hopefully you can see this is the core of the Iron Man protection deck. It's pretty easy to put together. It plays pretty well. It's a lot of fun to play. The next card, which is kind of fun, is Nova. This card allows you to once again retaliate against enemies, but this time you're going to be spending energy resources to actually do so. What makes this card really great, if you're doing a counterattack that deals damage, it doesn't actually wound Nova. So Nova can sit and play for many, many, many turns. And if you have a lot of those resources in your deck, those energy resources, you can use this ability over and over again. As an example, you can pair Nova with enhanced reflexes, and you can use the counters actually off enhanced reflexes to power Nova, which I think is a great idea. So you can trip this ability 3 times by using Nova, and you can get a lot of damage out of it. So 6 points of damage out of using enhanced reflexes with Nova, and then you can bring another enhanced reflexes into play and keep doing this trick over and over again, which is a fantastic combo. The next card in the protection line is a 1-cost upgrade. You can play this actually on any other hero that you're playing with. You can play it on yourself, you can play it on your companions. And what's great about this is that it raises the defense characteristic of that hero by +1. If you're going to be playing more solo games, I recommend only putting 1 copy of Armored Vest into your deck. If you like playing with other members of the team, 1 or 2 copies. If you're playing like a 3 or 4 player game, 1 or 2 copies of Armored Vest is a good option as well. But for 1 resource, it's definitely worth putting in your deck. The next card that we're going to talk about is Energy Barrier. This is a little bit of a complex card. It is a 2 resource upgrade. What is interesting about this is it's almost like a damage prevention card, and it's also a retaliation card all built into one. When you bring it out, you're going to put 3 reflection counters on this, and when you were attacked or you would take any amount of damage, you can take a counter off to prevent 1 point of damage, and then you can also deal 1 damage to an enemy. It's kind of some interesting economy. For only 2 upgrades, you get 3 tokens, so you can prevent 3 points of damage with it and inflict 3 points of damage. Energy Barrier can really shine with any hero that has the Retaliate characteristic. As an example, Black Panther can inflict a point of damage on an enemy after being struck. You can also double this up with Energy Barrier, so you can actually inflict 2 points of damage to an enemy and at the same time prevent 1 point of damage coming into that hero as well. So this is a really good combo. Another great card combo is playing Energy Barrier with Captain America's Shield. Captain America's Shield gives Cap America the Retaliate characteristic and also gives that character a defense +1. So if you double up these 2 cards, you can absorb a lot of damage and you can deal a lot of damage back in the defense phase. To sum it up, Energy Barrier is a great card with pretty decent economy. I would recommend placing 1 or 2 in your deck if you like this theme of counterattacking and preventing damage. Next up is Med Team. This is a 3-cost support card in which when it comes out, you're going to place 3 medical counters on this card. It has fairly decent economy. It's a little bit pricey to bring out, but once you bring it out, you can exhaust the Med Team, remove a counter from it, and heal any friendly character for 2. That could be an ally, that can be another hero, that can be you. This card really shines in multiplayer games, but probably less so in single-player solo games. Next we have Indomitable. It's a 1 casting cost upgrade that you can place on the table. As a response, when your hero defends, you can discard this to untap or ready your hero. This is a pretty cheap and fairly versatile card to use in the game. One combo that I like to perform is using Indomitable with Spider-Man. What's great about Spider-Man is that Spider-Man has a 3 defense, so you can actually exhaust Spider-Man to take a hit. Then you can discard this upgrade card to untap or ready Spider-Man, which is a fantastic option. This allows Spider-Man to soak up damage over and over again and really getting the most out of that 3 defense. Also, when the villain is actually attacking Spider-Man, you can draw a card as well. So you have a little bit of synergy there as well. If you're going to play Indomitable, since it's so cheap, I'd recommend having 2 or 3 copies of this in your deck. Next up, we have Counterpunch, which is a 0-cost event. This is also another response very similar to the last card that we looked at. After your hero defends against an enemy attack, deal damage to that enemy equal to your hero's attack. This is kind of a fun way to chip down enemies, and you can use your hero to defend and kind of take them down. A fun combination with Counterpunch is playing it with She-Hulk. I really enjoy the amount of hit points that She-Hulk has, starting with 15 hit points. She actually can do pretty decent at defense and soaking up damage. For instance, she starts with a 2 defense. If you wanted to use, let's say, the armored vest that we talked about before, that would give her a 3 defense, and you could use her to defend quite effectively. What's great about She-Hulk is that once you counterattack, you can be hitting for 3 points of damage on the enemy that just damaged She-Hulk. This is a great way to chip away at the main villain. And actually, it's not really chipping away. It's hitting pretty hard in a defensive mode. So I highly recommend using She-Hulk and Counterpunch together. The next card we have is Expert Defense. It's a 0-cost event that can be used to add 3 defense to your hero for an attack. This is a fantastic, cheap card, and it's a good way to survive a large incoming hit. Another good idea for Expert Defense is to use it with characters that have kind of lower values for defense. As an example, here's Miss Marvel with only a 1 defense value. You can use Expert Defense on Miss Marvel to raise her defense up to a 4, which is fantastic, and really give her a little bit more survivability. She only starts with 10 hit points in the game, and people do play Miss Marvel protection decks, and they are fairly successful, but here's one way to bolster her. Sometimes the best defense is a robust offense. This concept can be seen in the card Tackle, a 3 pretty hefty cost event that can be played. What's great about this card is that you can stun an enemy. And when you're going to be stunning enemies in Marvel Champions, you always want to be hitting the things that hit the most, which is typically the villain. So for 3, you can actually stun the enemy. And if you used a fist resource, you can deal an additional 3 damage to that enemy. This is a great way to deal damage to the villain and stun it and prevent it from hitting you in the first place. The next card we have is Get Behind Me. It's a 1-cost event. This card is sometimes a little bit hard to use. You can cancel a Treachery card, a when revealed effect, and then you cause the villain to attack you instead. So there's a lot going on with this card, and a lot can go wrong, especially when the villain attacks and its boost cards come out. There's a lot of unpredictable things that can occur when using this card. I haven't found too much use for this card. Some people might really enjoy this. If you do, that's fantastic. In general, I would kind of recommend maybe staying away from this one for now. Preemptive Strike is a 1-cost event, which sort of has a retaliation theme that we've been seeing over and over again with the Protection Core. What's great about this card is that you can nullify a boost icon from any sort of card that's coming up. Some of the really heavy-hitting enemies in the game sometimes have 2 or even 3 boost icons for damage on the card. So literally playing this at the right moment can save you 2 or 3 damage. What's great about it, you can also counterattack and hit them back for 1. I like this card. It's fairly cheap. It's fairly cost-effective. It's fairly versatile. I recommend throwing 2 or 3 in a deck if you like this card. Now we're moving into the Protection Allies. The first one is Black Widow. She costs 3 and has a 2 thwart and a 1 attack. Only 2 hit points, however. This card is a little bit pricey, a little bit hard to use because it's so conditional. When you look at it, there's a lot going on. So you can actually counter and cancel cards by using additional science resources, but then you have to reveal another card from the encounter deck. So it's a little bit of a gamble. It might be better, it might be worse. It's kind of hard to use. Plus, with only 2 hit points, it makes using Black Widow not that great. It's okay for thwarting, but you can only do it twice. So this card, I think it's just okay. I think it could be a little bit better for the cost. Next up is Luke Cage. He's a 4-cost ally, protection ally. And what I kind of like about Luke Cage is that he's got a lot of life. So 5 hit points, and you get to place a toughness card on this character when it comes out. What's great about Luke Cage, it has a lot of versatility. You can use Luke Cage to block sometimes several times. You can even block the villain and have him survive. So with that toughness icon, even taking 5 or more points of damage really nullifies it down to 0, which makes Luke Cage a really great blocker. So I highly recommend using a copy of Luke Cage in your deck. I want to thank everybody for joining me today to talk about the protection aspect in the Marvel Champions game. Thanks a lot and have a great day.